Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you are a returning subscriber, you can also go check out my other videos, not just my reading videos, but also my gaming videos or any cat videos that I've done towards the start of my YouTube channel. So that's just an option. You don't have to check them out, but feel free to check them out. Okay, so without further ado, I'm gonna start reading the Unwanteds again. And yeah, okay. I'm gonna be reading a good amount today because I don't have, I have to do other things too. So I'm gonna stop chit-chatting and I'm gonna get started. Okay. Mr. Today coughed loud. Oh wait, that's not where. Second. Where did I end? Okay. Oh, why? Oh, why? This ruthless waste on me? Am I but sand, and they the stormy sea? Mr. Today coughed loudly into his hand. Although it might sound more like a laugh to anyone who was listening closely. When he could speak again, he smiled politely. Dear Sigrid. Oh, guys, I'm so sorry. I read that page already. Sorry about that. Okay, so now, I didn't read this. Okay, I'm at page 85. If you don't work out your differences in a proper manner, next time he'll use a stinging soliloquy rather than the boring one. And you'll all be really very sorry that it came to that. Is that clear? Mr. Today didn't wait for an answer since the children were rather unable to speak. He turned back to Mr. Appleblossom. Let's hope that's the last of it for this group, he said quietly. Mr. Appleblossom sighed again, but this time it was a more relaxed sort of sigh, or maybe just a simple letting out of breath that had been held. Great thanks and more, my friend. I'll keep them here. Perhaps you'll join me later for a cup of tea? Interrupted Mr. Today. Of course. Just let them go when the spell wears off. The spell wears off. Incidentally, what strength spell did you use? A temporary one, I'm assuming? Well, 'twas quite a row. You'll understand it. An hour, less or more, will sure disband it. Fine and good. If you need me again, please do summon. And with that, along with the hasty shaking of Mr. Appleblosom's hand, Mr. Today disappeared inside the tube before the instructor could fire off another rhyming couplet. When the spell wore off, each child regained his full presence at his own pace, the bigger students before the smaller ones. Samhid was first, being quite solid and muscular already for his age. He stood and looked at the scene at Alex's face now, puffing up red and purple, and he hung his head slightly, feeling a bit ashamed. May I go? He asked Mr. Appleblossom in a resigned voice. The instructor didn't pause as he scratched notes in his paperwork. He merely nodded stiffly, like one of the mansion statues. But as Samhid neared the tube, Mr. Appleblossom turned and spoke a warning to the boy. You know, Samhid, no rival can compare his acting gifts to yours. But I declare, if you don't shake that attitude, and soon I'll drop you from my program. You'll be gone. You'll be goon. Samhid's face burned at the reproach from his own private instructor, yet he couldn't resist giving the little man a puzzled look. Goon? Mr. Appleblossom sighed impatiently. Gone, then. Oh, my stars. I hate imperfects. Samhid dropped his gaze, entered the tube, and completed the couplet for his teacher. I'm sorry, sir. I meant no disrespects. When Samhid was gone, Mr. Appleblossom tapped his forefinger against his lips and, after a thoughtful moment, smiled grimly to himself. Next chapter. Name is Samhid's First Secret. The next evening, after everyone had ignored him, completely due to his nasty behavior, Samhid sought and found Alex in the lounge. He slipped uneasily into the curved booth seat around the table from him, scouring Alex's face, and frowned. All right, Stowe, I'm sorry about the black eye, he said, a bit begrudgingly. Alex shrugged and fixed his eyes on the tube, waiting for Megan. Samhid rolled his eyes as if it pained him to say it. I mean it. When I get mad, I just sort of go a little crazy. Alex looked down at the floor. All right, he said, his voice cool. It's not like I care, and anyhow. And I know you're only apologizing so Mr. Appleblossom will keep you in the program. I heard what he said. You're a real jerk sometimes, and I'm not afraid to punch you back, you know. Samhid, who stood several inches taller and weighed several pounds more than Alex, tried not to scoff. Oh, I know, he said as seriously as he could. You can punch me now if you want. Alex glanced up at Samhid, a suspicious look on his face. What's the fun in that? None for me, that's for sure. I'd rather pound you when you're not expecting it. Well, Samhid said, I can't be sure how I'd respond to a sneak attack. I might punch you again, and then we'd be right back in this stupid mess. That would be awkward, Alex said. He relaxed his shoulders a bit. Samhid nodded. He looked over to the liar, squinted, and impatiently waved off his friend, Will Blair. Will glowered back, his eyes like slits. What's with that guy, anyway? Alex asked. He's so snarly. He's not so bad when you get to know him. Samhid said, sounding a little bit defensive. Oh, yeah? Alex didn't believe it. He's just, I don't know. He's acting, I guess. Right. Seriously. That's what he said when I asked him. And he's really good. He's got some amazing spells. Well, why would he want to hang around with a new kid like you? Did you know him in Quill or something? Yeah, I did. He lived in my column, 2 houses back. His father is the Quillitary General. Alex looked shocked. You lived in the Quillitary sector? Your parents are Unwanteds. You always walked beyond that sector from school. Samhid's eyes flared. I went to the Quillitary to do work with my father every day after school, to train and prepare myself for anyway. So what if my parents were Unwanteds? Will's parents are Unwanteds. Heck, Lonnie's parents were Unwanteds, and her father is a senior governor. But look where that got her. And look at you. You're unwanted. Your parents are necessaries. And your evil twin turned out to be wanted. There's no pattern, Stowe. Some he nearly spit venom with the last words. My brother is not evil, Alex said, a little louder than he had planned. Wait, let me do that again. My brother is not evil, Alex said, a little louder than he had planned. He hastily settled back in the seat and took a deep breath. Right, sure, he's not. What do you know anyway? You're just as unwanted as I am. I know plenty, Samhit sniffed. And no, I'm not as unwanted as you or anybody else. He continued hotly. I was supposed to join the military. I was supposed to be a wanted. Will Blair's father told me himself. I only had one minor offense, and they were going to let it pass. But at the last minute, somebody snitched on me for something else I did. Reported me to the governors a week before the purge. You're lying, Alex said, horrified. What was the offense? Samhid pressed his lips together. His face was red with anger, but his answer came out quiet, even. Dramatic boasting. Alex sat stunned. You mean on the last day of school? When you and Aaron and I were walking home? Samhid nodded. But there weren't any adults around. Samhid just stared at Alex. So who? Alex began, then turned pale. No, he whispered. I don't believe it, Samhid said, excruciatingly still. Excruciatingly still. His gaze never wavered. Alex slumped back in his seat, trying to comprehend, trying to remember if anyone else had been nearby as they left. As they left the school grounds that day. How do you know? Who else could it have been? Alex, you? Samhid snorted. Could it be true? Alex dropped his gaze to the table and shook his head slowly. Finally, he looked up and saw that Samhid's stare had softened slightly. If it's true, Samhid, Alex said softly, almost helplessly, I'm sorry. Samhid hastily looked away and bit his lip. His eyes glistened but remained hard. It's all right, Stowe, he said finally. At least we're not dead. But that doesn't mean I'll ever forget what your lousy brother did to me. The two boys sat, saying nothing, until Megan and Lonnie arrived and slipped in the booth on Alex's side, eyeing Samhid suspiciously. Samhid looked up. Hey, look, I'm sorry for the fight I caused in actor's studio. Forgive me? Alex looked away as both girls sat, slack-jawed, until Megan murmured, Of course, Samhid, and Lonnie echoed, Of course. Hastily, they all began babbling about their schoolwork in an attempt to change the comfortable subject. And then a comfortable subject came up. Well, guys, I have news. I'm beginning magical warrior training, Megan said, eyes bright. Lonnie shrieked and hugged Megan. Samhid's lips parted in surprise. Then he didn't even try to hide his scowl, and Alex grinned, trying to ignore the sinking feeling in his stomach for the sake of his best friend. Okay, guys, so I read one chapter for you guys, and I might read a little more later, so I hope you guys enjoy what I read today and do the steps that I always say, like subscribe, turn on post notifications, like and comment. Well, I hope you guys have a great Monday, and yeah, bye.